A third gruesome murder video from ISIS, the killing of British hostage David Haines after the earlier beheading of 2 American journalists, burst onto our television screens late yesterday. And the media coverage of these butchers and the way they flaunt death is definitely having an impact. A Washington Post, ABC poll showing more than 2/3 now backing U.S. airstrikes against ISIS in Iraq and nearly 2/3 in Syria. More than 2/3, I should have said, in Iraq. A sharp jump from just 3 weeks ago. The shift in public opinion coming just before President Obama asked the networks to cover a prime-time address on ISIS, a speech that scrambled the usual partisanship by the pundits, drawing some praise on the right, some criticism on the left.
I can announce that America will lead a broad coalition to roll back this terrorist threat.
I would say the only minor surprise in the speech, he made a pretty bold case for American interventionism at the end there about why it is that America has to be the one to do these fights, to lead these charges around the world.
It's probably the most explicitly pro-American speech he's ever made.
This is what you call leading from behind. In this case, he was leading from behind American public opinion, reversing himself and reversing course in a number of ways, and going back, of course, without ever acknowledging it, on things that he had claimed to be true there.
And I think here's the problem for the Republicans, is you got to be very careful about criticizing the president at a time like this.
So are much of the media getting their wish? A president going to war in all but name. Joining us now, Lauren Ashburn, Fox News contributor who hosts Social Buzz on the Fox website. Jim Garrity, contributing editor at National Review and author of the new novel, The Weed Agency. And Dana Milbank, columnist for The Washington Post. So we are not showing an image from this latest beheading video involving David Haines. And I want to ask all of you whether television, by showing it again and again, is playing into the terrorist hands.
Of course it is. It is absolutely playing into the terrorist hands, and we shouldn't be running it. I don't even want to see the picture of the executioner and the victim in an orange jumpsuit. I want to see the person who was actively doing their job, just a picture of that person.
Well, let's put up a picture of David Haines, and let's celebrate his life and not his death. Your thoughts on this question of showing the video?
I would say show it with a content warning, because it is the truth. And the public deserves to know what happened, even when what happened is utterly awful and horrible and terrible and turns your stomach.
On Fox News Sunday, John Roberts said to White House Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough, one thug with a knife and camera is now terrorizing 2 nations. Yes, but are we helping by turning this into wallpaper? Because this image will be up for days. You know
I don't think we're helping the terrorists by showing it. I think we're showing the world, including the Muslim world, how barbaric they are. That said, I don't think they should just be offered up there on television while somebody's eating their breakfast. I think they should say, look, if you want to see it, you can see it on our website, but here's a description of what they did.
All right. Now, has the coverage of the earlier killings and the threat from ISIS, has it changed the political climate to the point that President Obama perhaps felt compelled to give that speech on Wednesday?
Absolutely. He would not be giving the speech without those videos. And this is a marked difference from 2003, when you had the administration, the hawks, wanting to go to war and the press saluting exactly what the president wanted. It was almost un-American to go against that war. Now, in 2014, you have a reluctant pseudo-warrior coming out and a press saying, hey, you need to do something. After this video last night that came out, people were already saying, we need ground troops.
People mean some commentators
on television.
Jim.
I actually think the coverage has been pretty appropriate, meaning it's been serious, it has been in-depth, it focused obviously a lot about the Thursday night speech, but you've had it pretty much around the clock. I would say it is skeptical of achieving the objectives without being hostile. There's not been a lot of demonization. I think there's been a clear discussion of how evil ISIS is and what they are, but at the same time not necessarily touting them as being 10 foot tall and monstrous. It's just they are terrible, terrible people causing chaos wherever they go, but no underestimation of, look, these guys are in two war-torn countries. It's not going to be easy to get to them with just air power.
I'll come back to this question of skepticism in a bit, but do you see the media here, or much of the media, beating the drums for war?
No, I see the media reflecting what's going on in public, in turn reflecting what our leaders are saying. I think it's actually a healthy sign and a rare moment of agreement.
You don't see it the other way
America.
around, where the constant coverage and the demands to do something is actually prompting, forcing, influencing politicians to want to get on this bandwagon as the polls change.
There may be something circular about it, but the important thing is you've got opinion leaders on the left and the right. The left reluctantly saying, yeah, we're going to have to do something about these guys. On the right saying, do even more. So when the American public on both sides, right and left, is hearing their opinion leaders, their thought leaders say it, it shows that we actually still can rally around something, whatever it is. Now, give us a few weeks, we'll fall apart into disagreement again, but for now, at least, it shows.
You've raised the question about whether the media want war because it's in their financial self-interest.
I said that, yes, I've said that, and I think they do. I think that media are hawks when it comes to this. Just look at 1991 with General Schwarzkopf. For the first time, he's in his fatigues, he's showing us these guided missiles and on television, and everyone is tuning in. It was the same thing at the beginning of the Iraq War.
At the beginning, war may be good for ratings at the beginning. When it turns into a long slog, as Iraq inevitably did, it actually ends up being bad for ratings and television shies away from it. But I have to push back here because I think that's suggesting that journalists are unpatriotic, that they don't care about their country, they don't care about people getting killed because they want good programming.
I'm not saying that producers sitting out here is saying, I want war and let's put all of these images on here, but I think intrinsically people know if you're putting pictures up there of gruesome pictures like this executioner video, which I'm so tired of seeing, you are going to drive ratings.
It's very simple. The alternative is to say, well, 2 Americans got beheaded, but let's not get too upset. This is something worth getting upset about. This is something worth a sense of national vengeance over. I saw earlier this morning Tom Harkin had said, well, the Saudis behead people all the time. Why aren't we upset about that? Because they behead Saudis. These guys executed Americans, and we kind of owe it to other Americans to deter future attacks against us by going after the people who kill us.
Of course we should get upset, and of course then the question is always about tactics, and do you send troops, and can airstrikes do the job? But, you know, on this broader question, Dana, we in the press do thrive on tragedy, riots, earthquakes, war. That's when reporters make names for themselves.
Yes, and there's always some tragedy or riot or something else to cover, so I don't think it's this particular one. I think you can't really say that journalists are doing anything in their financial interest these days, because it's not all clear that we have any financial interest these days. And to the extent we do, we'd just be running, lots of photo galleries about kittens and puppies and half-naked people. I mean, that's what drives traffic. So I don't think this is a financial decision at all. I think we're reflecting more public opinion and opinion leaders rather than the other way around.
I think that's dumbing down the American public to say that they just want cat videos and naked people.
Puppies, too.
And puppies, of course. Puppies. Mine is very cute. But I think it is a video. It is a type of video that people want to see. You want to know what is happening and why people are attacking Americans.
Well, go online and see it, and you can watch the whole thing.
That's how I feel. Yeah. Right? I'm not arguing to see it. I'm actually arguing against seeing it because you can go find it online.
When you talk about skepticism in the coverage here, I'm seeing a bit more skepticism than I did, for example, in 2003 when the Bush administration and the threat of the non-existent WMDs did galvanize the press, and I think everybody in the media acknowledges that the tough questions weren't answered. And I've seen a number, in particular in the New York Times, a number of pieces about where are the coalition partners and are there moderate Syrian rebels that we could arm, but not so much on TV, and I'm wondering whether or not there's a little bit of cheerleading going on.
Generals are always fighting the last war. Journalists are always covering the last one. Think back to, say, 2007 or so. Bush announces the surge, and the coverage of that was that this was a disaster. It was never going to work. This was just adding more troops into the fire. And lo and behold, the surge actually improved things in Iraq for a while.
Yes.
Then along comes Libya in, say, 2009, 2010. President Obama says we're going to lead from behind. We're going to provide air support.
Well, he didn't actually say that as a contributor.
Some administration official says that. And Libya seems fine for a while until September 11, 2012, when our ambassador gets killed, and all of a sudden Libya is now a mess, and they're jumping into our swimming pool over at our consulate over there. So now we have a situation in which we've gone from being kind of confident to kind of being more skeptical to being more confident, putting more faith in the administration, now back more skeptical again. And I kind of feel like, look, I think that the coverage should always kind of acknowledge the possibility, look, maybe this is necessary. Life requires us to do things that are hard and difficult and all that stuff. But not at the same, that you don't sugarcoat it, you don't say how easy it's going to be. But you also don't say, this is just, warmongering neocons out for blood for oil and all the usual crap we've heard.
Second paragraph of a New York Times story the other day. Some officials and terrorism experts believe that the actual danger posed by ISIS has been distorted in hours of television punditry and alarmist statements by politicians. Fair point?
Well, I suppose it's always a fair point, but I think that's largely peripheral to what's going on here. I think we're having this reaction because you had, in the run-up to this, you had a lot of people on the right, but even some people on the left saying the president's disengaged, he's not interested, he's weak. He gave that speech, and I think it threw people off balance a little because, wait a second, he sounded pretty strong there. So I think that muted some of the criticism on the right, because after that it was kind of confused. It was at once saying, well, he's still not being strong enough, and yet he's asking for too much money for it. So I think it sort of blunted the criticism there, and that's why you're not getting a lot of pushback.
I'm just saying that things go wrong in wartime, and airstrikes are not an antiseptic solution to everything, and pilots can get shot down, and civilians can be killed accidentally, inadvertently, and I just think that we ought to be sober in the coverage here of talking about why we need to go after these terrorists, and at the same time, that this is not a risk-free enterprise.